All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mandy Effect. I'm Mandy. Today's conversation is going to be about growth, leadership, and the hard work that goes behind building a successful business. Today, I'm joined by Shafoli Kapur. She's the founder of TDOT Immigration. She has built a respected business in a highly competitive market. What stands out to me the most is how she's done it with resilience, self-respect, as well as integrity. Shafoli, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Mandy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so let's take it back to the early stages of your business when TDOT was just an idea. Walk us through how you turned it from an idea into your actual business from the ground up.
That's such an amazing question. You know what? TDOT was not even an idea, to be honest. When I started or ventured out on this journey, it was primarily just to be a provider for the family, just to earn money, just to earn income. We were going through financial struggles at the point, and I needed to find a way to support my family financially. So I wasn't even thinking about making it big in life, or I didn't have any any plan or business plan, nothing at all. It was just about going to school, getting my license, and getting the work started. And that's how TDOT was built. And then slowly, gradually, as I started working on applications, people got connected to me. I felt how much of a big responsibility it is. It's about the lives of people. And even today, if you ask me, where do you see TDOT in 10 years from now? I don't see TDOT anywhere. What I see is every single day, I'm helping people live their Canadian dream. I'm making sure that they're getting the right advice. I'm making sure that I'm helping them achieve their goals of permanently living in Canada the right way. And that's the aim, that's the goal I wake up with every single day and go to the office.
That's wonderful. That's really actually nice. So when you started TDOT, earlier stages, did you have like a home office, or did you just purchase a location, or you invested into an office? And has that been the home office ever since?
So no, I never had. I've never been a person who's been able to work from home. I've always, because for me, focus is very important, especially in anything I'm doing. And, just to maintain that atmosphere where, you feel like you're working. And I used to work in the corporate sector back in the day. So I've had that habit of always going to the office, dressing up and going to the office. So I've never worked out of home. I had another business prior to starting TDOT. So we already had a workspace, like an office space. And then from there, I was able to move into another space. And I've always worked from the office, never ever had a home space. In fact, even right now, even if I like for example, if on weekends I'm working and I have consultations, I'd rather go to the office. Even if it's Zoom calls, I'll go to the office and work. I can't work from home.
I'm the opposite.
Also, the kind of work I do, it's very client. And in the beginning, it was very important to build that trust with the client, right? Now, if you're working from home, how do you build that trust, versus when you're in the office, you have the entire setup, you have the computer, you have the printer, you have the phone and everything. Then, when a client comes to you, they have more trust in what you're doing versus if you're just sitting in your pajamas. And no offense to those people. I mean, if that works for you, that works for you. It just never worked for me.
No, I understand. It makes sense. When you have a customer-based business, it's always nice to have a location, a centralized location where they can come to and sort of get well known with your environment as well. So let's talk about the early stages of your business where you were learning the ins and outs. What were some of the challenges? Were there any gaps that you saw as your business was growing?
Obviously, there were a lot of challenges. It's never easy. Starting a new business, venturing out into a new industry, completely new industry. Unfortunately, things back then when I started out, we didn't have any mentors people lived with a scarcity mindset. If you teach somebody else, they'll take away your business, or, people do live with that. So, and obviously, maybe even I had that, but over time I've grown out of it. And now I believe in abundance more than scarcity. So, but then back in the day when I was starting out, I didn't have any support system. Nobody ever helped me. And I would really miss that, So I learned the ropes of the business myself. But what I would do was I wouldn't venture out completely. Like I wouldn't be a risk taker in the sense, take on applications situations that I cannot handle. But then slowly, gradually, I was able to build my client base, my knowledge. I would spend a lot of time reading. I would spend a lot of time, learning more about programs. And I would take on applications and slowly, gradually build on my experience. And I think God was also with me. I had to get where I am today. So God always helped me. I kept getting clients. A lot of that was from referral. A lot of hard work, several hours. I also very early on in my career started doing CPD. So I started presenting seminars for continuous professional development hours for my colleagues. And I realized that that really helped me in building my confidence, researching programs, because I would actually deliver presentations. I remember pulling all-nighters, just working all night, preparing like 70, 80 sheet, like a PowerPoint presentation, just because I had to present it the next day. So yeah, definitely there were a lot of challenges, but I never took challenges as challenges. I always took them as learning. Again, not aware of that. I'm lucky that I, as a young kid, I was very resilient. I've grown in a family where I've seen my father, who's always worked very hard, who's been resilient, never gave up, always fighting back. So I think that was inbuilt in me, ingrained in me right from a very early stage. Again, lack of awareness. I didn't know. I didn't have words to put to all of those behavioral, like whatever behavior I was showing at that point. But then I just kept going, and I would never look at challenges as challenges. I would see as a problem, and then try and find a solution to it. And I think that attitude has really helped me in getting where I am today.
So taking challenges and looking at them as opportunities.
And then just making sure that because I've always believed that you have a problem at hand, you either solve it or just don't whine about it, just leave it, right? But then whenever there was a problem, or whenever I was in a critical situation, my mindset would always be, we can solve it. Let's solve it. What can we do to make it work?
I think that's actually the right mindset for an entrepreneur or business owner. Is like, you have a problem, let's do some research and figure it out and see what the solution is. And then it's always trial and error, right?
And you won't believe, when you start out, the problems are smaller. But then as you keep growing,
they get bigger.
they're bigger and bigger, and sometimes way too many in number. Sometimes in the morning now when I wake up, I'm like, I already know, oh my God, all of this I have to deal with. And, like when I'm dressing up in the morning, like I'm just thinking about everything. And I dress up extra special for the days when I have extra problems. Because I'm like, that's going to give me the confidence to deal with that.
No, I can relate to that. And it's nice that you take the time to make yourself look presentable and put together, right? And I think many people actually appreciate that. You want to dress for the job that you want, not that you have, right? And it kind of builds your confidence as well. So
also, people take you seriously, right? I mean, if you're not put together, how do people who are speaking with you going to take you seriously? But if they see that the person who they're talking to is well dressed, and have a good posture, and I mean, it just shows. And sometimes you just have to. I wouldn't say I don't fake it. I'm not faking it. But sometimes you're weak, right? And you fake it, and then you make it. That's
what they always say. You put on a little
say.
Mask, and that's okay, because behind the scenes, you've done the work, right? So having your homework done.
Sometimes there's just so much going on personally as well. We all have personal issues. Like, we have a professional life, but then we also have personal life. And then there could be things going on at the back of your mind because of something else that you're experiencing in your personal life. But then you cannot let that affect your professional life, because those two things need to be kept different. I mean, people don't care. I mean, if I think from my profession's perspective, if a client comes to me and I start whining about what's going on in my personal life, they'd be like, okay, there are 100 other people who can do my job. Like, you're just too much engrossed in your personal life. So I very much like to keep my professional personal. There could be like a storm going on, a tsunami going on in my personal life. My professional clients, my professional life would never get the impact of it. Never.
That's wonderful. And I think that's the right way to do business, right?
I mean, absolutely. If a client is trusting you and paying you for the services, then they pay you for your work, for the job that you're doing, and not for what is going on in your personal life.
Yeah. So when did you start realizing that, okay, my business is growing, my customers are loving me, and now I need help. I need to recruit some resources so we can be bigger and better?
I actually started recruiting very early on in my business. I think 2 years into the business. No, not even 2 years. Yeah, 2 years into the business, I hired my first employee. I don't call her employee anymore. She still works with me, by the way. In fact, anybody who's joined me back in the day, many of them are still with me. So I give them a lot of credit of building TDOT with me. I always say that building a business or growing a business is never one person's job.
It's not.
It's always team effort. I couldn't have come this far if I didn't have the support and help and, the confidence and trust of my team who helped me get it. Even today, I mean, the amount of phone calls we deal with, the amount of call volume or the messages or emails that we deal with, it is impossible for Shafoli to do everything. I could have the knowledge, I could have the strategy, I could have the confidence, I could have the grit, the resilience. But then in the background, my team is the one who's really doing the work, supporting me in this journey.
That's amazing. So how is the work culture at TDOT? So it seems like there's a lot of longevity, right? Seniority, not seniority, longevity. How do you guys keep it sane? And then being a leader, sometimes you do have to step in and say time out, So walk us through that process and how it's been so far for you.
So, again, I don't have a business degree. I learned everything just by getting my hands dirty. Like I've been very, very involved. I've always treated my team as family. I don't have any friends. I don't go out to party. I don't believe in all that things. Maybe I did back in the day. I'm not in that phase anymore. But again, when you're building something, you don't have the time for anything else. So when I was building TDOT, I've always treated my team as my family, and I truly believe that from the bottom of my heart. So I talk to them, I tell them, even sometimes I share my personal stuff with them. They share their personal stuff with me. I've never tried to shortchange anyone. I've never tried to make them feel as if it's my company and I decide and it's my rules. Yes, sometimes I need to lay the rules of the game, or sometimes I have to push them or motivate them to do certain things a certain way. But I've never been somebody who's tried to set boundaries for them or tried to say, this is how your day is going to be, or micromanage their work. I don't function like that. I don't do that stuff. And I've realized that people who don't belong automatically get filtered out. I've had people who've quit the firm. I've had people who've left, but they're the ones who just cannot cope up with my work culture. And the work culture that we have in our office is to be honest to each other, to be positive, to always support each other, never bitch about anybody. I have a girls team, by the way. Just very recently, I had one boy, but otherwise, all of these 8 years, I've only had a women's team. Not because I'm against men, but it just worked. I just felt more comfortable being in that environment. And my rules were: don't be negative, don't bitch, don't say things that would. Don't backbite. You have a problem, you're working as a team, you spend 8 hours of your day here, go talk to that person. I'm sure misunderstandings happen. I'm sure there's somebody's work ethic that you don't like. Go talk to that person, or something that they've done that has affected your work. Talk to them. We all support each other. We don't try to sometimes that happens, and I'm trying to build that. As the team grows, problems grow. But then don't try to push your responsibility onto somebody else, or don't try to throw somebody else under the bus. Because anything that we do as a team, it's all part of the same process. In my office, if a client comes, they don't just deal with me or just one person. They deal with the finance team, they deal with the front office, they deal with the admin team. They sometimes always deal with the operations team. So they go through that full life cycle. So everybody's actions matter. Even if one person disappoints the client, it eventually sort of, it spirals down.
Effect,
exactly. It's a snowball effect, and it trickles down to the other department or other. So we all make sure that the customer experience is a joint effort. We all have to make sure that the customer's experience is good, and we're working in the client's best interest. In our office, we never work in our best interest. We always work in the client's best interest, and obviously client's best interest becomes our best interest.
That's phenomenal. That's very good. So as your team grows, as the business grows, like you say, different personalities come in, you have different departments within your business. How do you ensure from end to end that everybody's speaking the same language or keeping the same culture and the ground rules? I think sometimes, as we tend to grow and as our business grows, there are some, sour patches. So how do you make sure that is maintained within your team and your business?
So I'm not going to say I'm perfect, right? And I'm also growing slowly and gradually. So obviously there are times when we fail and we're not able to do things, or there's a chaos between the two teams. Always, it happens. But what we're trying to do is build systems, build processes. I'm trying to introduce AI in my business so that a lot of redundant work or work that is repetitive can be removed from the plate of a lot of it doesn't need human effort. I'm trying to do those things. So I'm introducing all of that in my business, introducing policies and processes that can help help to reduce human judgment in things that don't necessarily need human judgment. It can be automatically done. And so my team can focus on things, more productive things, right? So what is extremely important for me is to ensure that while the customer experience needs to be extremely good, but at the same time, anybody who works in my organization also needs to have a good experience. None of my teammates should come to work feeling drained, stressed. The environment needs to be positive. It needs to be a growth environment for everybody. Everybody should feel that we are growing. And growth is not just monetary growth. Growth is mental growth. Growth is emotional growth. Growth is, just your relationship growth, So for me, all of those things are extremely, extremely important. I tell my team all the time, the day on Monday morning, you feel like getting up and texting me to tell me that I'm not feeling well, like you want to call in sick, but really you're not sick and it's just an excuse. That means it's time to quit. That means this job is not for you anymore, because now you're finding excuses to not come to work, because that means there's something wrong at work that you're not enjoying. So there's no need to work, and or come and talk to me. Come and talk to me so that we can see what we can do to improve your experience. So my constant effort is to make the experience of my team as well as my clients phenomenal.
That's amazing. So I'm going to push you a little bit to talk about this. I think when you're an entrepreneur, you could have a very positive mindset. You can take all the education, you can bring in top of the line resources. There's always going to be a little bit of a struggle or challenges in the back end. So you have a very successful business that you've built for yourself. And like you said, there's no I, it's we, right? Within
Absolutely.
the culture of your business. But what are the true challenges that you guys have faced? Has there been, I'm sure there's been disagreement between coworkers. Maybe someone's made a mistake on a very critical case, missing a deadline. What are some of the challenges that you have actually faced? And then, obviously you have that personality where it's trial and error. You look at the situation, you work at it, you talk about it, and you move forward. But what were those meaty behind the scenes experiences? If someone out there is watching today and they are looking to open up their own immigration business, what advice would you give them, based on those struggles?
I think it's a very, what's the right word to use? It's a very personal, it depends from person to person. Okay. Now, when I say depends from person to person, I mean is the last 3 years of my life have been transformative for me. I have gone from being a reactive person to being a responsive person. So self-awareness is key in leadership. It's so important to be self-aware. We can say mean things to people around us all the time, but I think we need to pause and question ourselves. What about ourselves? Have we never done any mistakes? Have we never done anything wrong, whether it's professionally or personally? So I personally don't like to throw my team under the bus, or I don't like to make them feel guilty about something that they've done wrong. And again, I'm saying one, I'm a work in progress. I'm not perfect. Two, it has been a journey for me as well, of self-reflection, of self-awareness, of pausing and asking myself, what would I do? What would I have done if I was in that person's place, right? And also another thing that I do a lot is I ask my team to introspect, right? Instead of telling them, this is what you did wrong, I tell them, ask yourself what you did. Is this right? And how could you have avoided it? And a lot of times I feel that my team does. I mean, if any one of us, if we pause and reflect, we do have the answers. Our intuition tells us if we did the right thing or wrong thing. And I feel, and if I'm wrong at something, I have no shame in apologizing to my team. Sometimes I have overreacted at situations, and I apologize to my team. I apologize to them for being whatever I did, or for raising my voice, or for being too stern. But then I think the beauty is, and I've been telling myself a lot past few weeks as well, that I catch myself in the moment now. I never used to do that before. But now if I'm reacting, I catch myself immediately. I know I'm reacting. And then I pull myself back. And I'm like, okay, let's pause. And then I try to explain them, right? And I try to tell them, okay, you could have done this way, but do you understand but this small mistake can lead to this consequences, and that can be really, really hard. Don't forget about me, forget about the business, forget about the money, forget about the client, but think about the client's future. Their life will be jeopardized just because we did not pay enough attention. And a lot of times people do realize their own mistakes. And I think that's the strategy I'm building. That's the woman I want to be. A woman who's calm, composed, is not reacting to everything, and instead is responding. Because sometimes we overreact, right? I mean, sometimes things are not as big.
But that's what makes us human, right?
I do. And I'm not saying I don't react right now as well. I do, but I think I catch myself in the moment.
It's a continuous growth mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing. So your business is very successful. Laws are always changing, right? Continuous education is very important. How does that work with your team and yourself? How do you guys make sure you're educated about the laws that are changing? You are making sure that you're looking at client files to make sure that if there's a transition that could be made, that you should look into it and sort of work with your team to make sure that you're helping those customers, but also keeping yourselves educated enough to keep the business going.
So, for that, obviously, because I'm the primary RCIC, or the consultant in the office. So obviously I keep myself very aware of everything that's happening. And then also what happens is, whenever there's a big change in a policy or a law, I ensure that I inform my team right away. So we have a discussion about it. I'll tell them. Also, our social media really helps, because we are very active on social media, and we post all the updates very quickly. So then that also helps us to stay abreast with everything that's changing in the market or in the industry, and the rules that are coming new. And then obviously anytime that there's a new change, I talk to my team about it, and especially the operations team will quickly share that information. But you rightly said, constant training is very important. And this is something that I'm still working on. Because what happened initially was that a lot of people that were in my firm were from my early days. And they learned everything by shadowing me. Because we used to sit so close to each other. They would literally overhear my consultations as well. And so they've learned a lot from that. But then now that we have more people in the team, so we're building on our training modules and materials. And, we're also, like I said, AI. So we're building SOPs, and we're slowly and gradually getting to a point where we can, standardize our processes so that everybody gets benefited out of that.
I'm really looking forward to see where your business goes. Talking about the younger Shafoli, going back 10 years, if it seems like you've done a lot of work on self-improvement journey, right? Growth and the mindset and being aware in the presence, right? If you could give 3 pieces of advice to the younger Shafoli, what would they be?
You're not competing with anyone in the world. You're just competing with who you were yesterday. So I don't compete with anybody anymore. Nobody is even on my radar of competition. Second is that you're good enough, Shafoli. You're good enough. You're good to look at. You're yeah, okay.
I second that. You are good to look
No,
at.
I didn't mean to. I just came so abruptly. I didn't mean that. So that's something that I've lived with for several years of my life, that I'm not good to look at. But this is a huge, huge misconception I had to overcome and start loving myself and believing in myself. I've fought this for several years, and it took me 40 years to start believing that it's okay, you're good enough, and you. So yeah, definitely, this is what I would tell younger Shafoli, that you are good enough. You're just enough, and obviously you can get better, but for the time of the life that you're at, you're enough. And the third thing is that I am where I am, so meant to be. I'm not behind. I'm not late. I'm not ahead, but I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. And whatever is meant to come my way will come my way. And I don't have to hustle harder or to go after it, and I don't have to lose my peace, and don't have to stress about achieving what I want to achieve. I'm going to get there when the right time comes.
One day, one step at a time. That's what I tell myself. All right. So let's transition a little bit from business into your personal journey. You've been through a little bit of a hard season. I would say a little bump in the road. You're a mom. You're a single mom, and then you went through a divorce. Divorces are never easy. They're a journey. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of healing. Walk me through that process from the early stages. Let's face it, nobody gets married to get divorced, right? Or to separate. I'm Punjabi. You're also Punjabi, right? So coming from a North Indian family, the family atmosphere. Let's walk through that and how it was for you, and then how going back to, you're in a hard season. You still have to show up at work. You still have to motivate the people that you work with. You still have to be the best version of yourself from your clients. What was that journey like for you?
It was very hard. But then again, like I said, I've always kept my personal and professional lives very, very separate. I remember the day I separated from my husband. The day I separated from my husband, I was at work that day. And I did not miss a single day of work from that. Yes. Was I myself? No. I didn't realize that. My team told me that you were not yourself. They still remember. I don't remember anything. This was 3 years ago, by the way. And I'm not divorced yet. I'm separated. We have a little bit of a drama there, but that's okay. We'll deal with it. So my team tells me that you were not yourself. You were a different person. And some of my the beauty of my business is my clients don't end relationships with me when they get their PR or I get clients coming back to me for everything. So I have some clients who even now call me for their personal stuff. Like if they're going through a troubled time in their marriage, they'll call me. They'll say, please give me 10 minutes. I just want to talk to you. They have something, they're getting married. They want to talk to me. They still invite me to their engagements and their marriages and, things like that. So I have a very, very special relationship with my clients.
Sweet, yeah.
So, and I still remember all my clients by their names and their stories from 8 years ago. So this client was also in the office. He's very close to me, and he met me, and then this was a conversation that happened later, that he was telling me that my team was this one person in my team who's very close to my heart. She told me that he was really concerned for you, and he was like, oh, I've never seen her like that, and I don't remember all that.
Yeah.
So maybe I did go through a very hard time, but again, I'm very good with detachment. I detach from things very quickly. Things, people, places, environments very, very quickly. So I don't look back that much. And I think that also helps me in progressing and moving forward in life, because I detach, I don't look back, and I just keep moving forward. Whether it's people, places, like I said, anything, team members, it's easy for me to move on. So when I separated from my husband, of course, it was very hard, but it was needed at that time, because if I didn't, I would have lost myself. I was already losing myself. Again, there was no awareness of that. Now that I look back and I can think about who I was and who I am now, the amount of awareness I have, the amount of, growth I've had in the last 3 years, it tells me that I was in dirty waters.
Yeah.
And it was the time for me to have that courage to come out of it. It does take a lot of courage,
It takes a lot
to
of
pull a
courage,
trigger
yeah.
on a marriage, a 15-year-old marriage. Sometimes people say, oh, I'm sorry that you're separate. I'm like, don't be. Congratulate me for
Yeah.
having the courage to
Yeah.
walk out of that relationship, because it was not doing me any good. And the amount of good I've done to myself after separating from him is a reinforcement for me that it was meant to be.
Yeah.
That relationship wasn't meant to go any further. And nothing against that relationship. I had some good years in my marriage, but then it stopped being good anymore. It wasn't making any, and I can say with confidence, it wasn't any good for him either.
Yeah.
So it made more sense for him and me to part ways, and for our kids to see a life away from the toxic environment that we were living in. And I'm very, very happy, and it doesn't make me sad anymore that I'm not married, or I'm not with my ex-husband, or I'm divorced. I don't have a victim mindset. I'm in a good place. I am very, very happy to be where I am.
I think it's really important, being a South Asian, right? Being in a marriage for 15 years and then having the capacity to come to a realization that, I must move forward in order to grow from this, because you do have to detach yourself. But what matters at the end of the day is realizing that, it's going to be okay. Divorces are expensive. You have to navigate life in a different way. You have children, you're now a single mom. There's so many thoughts that go through your mind. What am I going to do? You have to learn to downsize a little bit. You have to learn to sort of help yourself and your children. You have to make sure that you are on a self-improvement journey and you're aware of your surroundings. So you can, again, before filling other people's cup, you can fill up your own. So how was that journey for you? Let's talk about the growth mindset. I'm sure, you definitely took some steps to get here. Was there a therapy? What are things that you did for you to be who you are today?
Yeah. So, I think first and foremost was my parents' support. You talked about being a Punjabi coming from a Punjabi family, right? So I think my parents' support was my biggest strength at that time, because I remember telling my father that I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. And it took me 3 years, by the way. We had a very difficult marriage. We detached emotionally 3 years ago. I at least had, I don't know about him, but 3 years ago. And then 3 years before I separated from him. So when I actually pulled the trigger on the marriage, I knew 100% I was done. I was done. There was no looking back. I couldn't live with him another day. So then when I told my parents, my father especially, he was like, okay, if that's what you want, I'm with you. If this is how you want to live your life, I'm with you. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to ask you the reasons. I'm not going to ask you what went wrong. I'm with you. So I think that really helped me. Second thing that really helped me was having control of my finances at that point. I didn't have control of my finances for the 15 years I was married to him, but I don't know, maybe that is how God wanted it to be. Yeah. So I had reached a point that I was financially independent and I could take that step. So it wasn't going to be that I had to ask him for financial support. I had to ask my parents at that point for financial support. I could take care of myself and my kids at that point. So that was my second strength. I think that is what a lot of women struggle with, and they're not able to take that decision. And then the day that happened, I remember my heart was pacing and my hands were shivering when this was happening, all of this, and it was very dramatic. And I asked myself that night, I was obviously in a very dark place, very, very, very dark place, but I asked myself, Shafoli, you have two options from here. Either you go up from here or you just ruin yourself.
Yeah.
I could have packed my bags and gone back to India and just, but did I want that life? No. Did I work hard for that life? No. I knew this was home for me. I'd spent prime years of my life working hard in this country. My kids were born here. They were pretty decent aged, they had friends and stuff. So I knew going back home was not an option. Building my life here was. And that's when my, the journey of introspection, self-awareness started. And then God kept bringing opportunities in front of me. Obviously, I put all my focus and channelized all my energy into the business. I wasn't thinking about anything. I cut down all my friends. I detached myself from everything, every single thing. all I did was work and took care of my kids. That's all I did. And obviously working hard on the business helped me grow the business at that point. But then I also was, because I wasn't spending time with my so-called friends who all basically disappeared when that happened. So with those fake people, I wasn't, so I had more time to myself. And when you have so much time to yourself, what do? Then you just keep working on yourself, right? So that's what I did. And then I also came across, I don't know, maybe like we say that, when you're on social media hears you. And I started getting all these ads from Jay Shetty's certification program, life coaching. And I was like, okay, you know what? It is resonating with me. And I decided to start that program. I did the 6-month certification. I became a certified life coach. And I don't practice life coaching right now, but I think that journey was meant for me to heal and grow. So just because probably I did that course, I didn't really need to go to therapy because I was able to self-heal myself. Again, not undermining.
I'm not laughing at you. I feel like you're talking about me with your story, because I've done the same thing. Hustle, hustle, hustle. And then you got to take a step back because now you have all this time because you're settled and situated. And it's like, what do? Self-help it is,
Yeah. So, but then again, I'm not undermining therapy. I'm not saying that, self-help or doing a certification.
It's not for everybody.
It's two different things. But did it work for me? It worked for me. Those 6 months of training and introspecting and spending time with people, life coaches, and, spending time with people who were actually working on themselves really, really helped me, elevate myself from that dark place that I was in.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I think, when you're in a position, you can either go left or you can go right or you can go up, right? And if you choose to go up, you can have the best therapist in the world. You can have the best educators. But ultimately, in my 40 years, what I've learned is you have to be willing to put forth that effort, and then the difference and the positives will come through that. It's education, it's awareness, it's discipline, it's consistency. And then it's also having the power to realize that this is where I need to work on things for myself so I could be a better version of myself.
That's true.
Kudos to you. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
So let's talk
We all are proud of each other.
Right? Let's talk about South Asian women, right? I've worked in customer-facing environments. I've met a lot of people through my life, through my career, and I've met a lot of women. Like we talked about earlier, nobody wants a divorce. Nobody wants a separation. But ultimately, sometimes you do end up in a situation where things just don't work out. And then there's that little hope that women cling on to, maybe he'll change, or maybe if I do this, things could be better. What advice do you have for those women that are in that situation? For instance, the first thing I've always said to the people that have reached out to me is that you're going to be okay. Even if financially you're struggling today and you're worried about what people are going to say, what your family's going to say, you need to choose yourself and happiness. And then from there, have a plan. You got to start somewhere. And when you have so much dedication and so much willingness to put forth the effort to move forward in life, it's nothing but there's hiccups in the beginning, but then it's nothing but liberation after that.
Yeah.
I guess if you were to look at those South Asian women that are in that situation today, what would you say to them?
I would say that, think of it like this, right? You got married whenever you got married, it could be in your 20s, it could be in your 30s, you did what was right for you at that time. Maybe the marriage worked, maybe things were wonderful. And then there came a point when things were not the best, right? It's very important for you as a human being or as a woman to realize that you have a life too, and you need to be treated with respect, with love, and so if you need to step up for yourself, there's nothing wrong in it. You're not being selfish in choosing yourself over the marriage or over anybody else. Now, ending a marriage does not mean that everything is going to be evil or everything is going to be sour. There are so many marriages where when you're splitting, they do it happily and nicely. Yes, that doesn't happen too much in South Asian marriages. I understand because men take it to their ego. How dare she, do that to me? But then think about yourself, because you have a long life ahead of you. You don't, if you've boys as children, you don't want them to see this is how you treat women. This is what I would ask myself all the time. I'm showing my two boys that it's okay to treat a woman this way.
Yeah.
It's okay to abuse a woman. It is okay to be violent with her. It is okay to abuse her family. It is okay to ill-treat her all the time, even though she's the provider or she's whatever. So for me, I would ask myself, is this how I want my boys to treat their wives?
Yeah.
So that was one. If you have a daughter, do you want your daughter to believe this is how she should be treated? So a lot of people say, I don't want to break my marriage because I have young kids. I say, break your marriage for your children.
Yeah.
I'm not supporting breaking marriages.
I totally understand.
Please don't. But if you're at a point where you need to choose whether you need to stay in or not, look at your children and decide whether you need to stay in or not, because you don't want to give them that life to believe. It's trauma for them too.
It's a lot of trauma. Sometimes people will say, we're going to wait till they're 18. We're going to wait till they're older, or, they'll sleep in separate rooms. There's so many stories, and I don't want to get into the examples, but I want to focus more on the fact that it's okay if you step away, because if you don't, you're hurting your children in the long run, and you're showing them that if you lived with it, they should also. It kind of trains the mindset that if my mom dealt with it, I'm going to deal with it too.
It becomes a norm.
Okay. Yeah.
It becomes a norm, right? They start thinking that this is how marriages are.
Yeah.
And this is how you're supposed to be. This is how society. I remember when I would talk to my friends, my so-called friends, about me going through whatever I was going through, they would tell me, it's okay, Shafoli.
Yeah.
It's okay. This is how marriages work. Yeah. And it was very later when I realized, okay, you could be shoving things under the rug. I don't want to do them anymore.
Yeah.
This is not how I want to live. This is not how I deserve to be treated. And I don't want my children. And I ask my children now, do you because my older son still remembers times from then and now. And he's like, it's so much nicer now because when you come home, you're not scared that mom and dad would be yelling and screaming.
You're building new traditions, you're building new routines, you're building your calm, right? And then you're building your little support system, right? So I definitely resonate with your advice. What about those women?
One more
Sure.
thing. Just final statement. It is not selfish to choose yourself.
It's not.
You're not a homebreaker. You're not an evil person. If you need to choose yourself because you cannot tolerate, and everybody has a threshold, That's another thing.
Yeah.
So if you're past that threshold, you're not being selfish.
Yeah. And again, in this video, I want to make sure that people realize we're covering the aspects of situations where things could be better. The idea is not to push people to, go get a divorce. It's more if you're in a situation, if you want to get out of it, then these are the steps that you should take when it comes to healing, when it comes to the safety of you and your children. What would you say? Because I think many women go through this phase as well. I personally also went through it years ago. They'll end the relationship, or he'll walk away or she'll walk away, but they're still stuck in that, I'll do something for myself when my daughter goes to college, or I'll do this when that. What do you have to, what advice would you give those women? I think it's so important to get to know yourself, really understand what you like and what ticks you off and what makes you happy, and sort of, interviewing yourself and trying different things that make you feel happy and calm. But I think a lot of women also in the early stages get stuck in the thought of, I really missed that. What do you miss? It was a broken relationship. They walked away. Now look forward. What advice, or how do you look at that scenario?
So, I think this would come across as being too cliched, but we've been told time and again to live in your present. And that's it.
Yeah.
So live for today. What has happened in the past has happened. You can't change it. And what's going to happen in the future, you don't even know. Sometimes, people will ask me, I'll give you an example. My clients will tell me, oh, give me a guarantee my application will get approved. And this is so off this, right? Like this topic. And I tell them, I literally say this to them, there's no guarantee I'm going to get home today.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? I can promise you that I can put in my best effort. I can put the best foot forward. I can make sure that I make a good, comprehensive, strong, watertight application, but I can't guarantee decisions because that's not in my control. Same thing goes for our lives. We can just put in our best effort based on our awareness of today, based on what we know today. That could be a wrong decision. That's okay. Don't hold yourself hostage to something that you did based on what you knew at that time, but take it as a learning. You've learned from it and do better next time, right? So a way to move away from your relationship is that's what I tell myself. This is the past. I can't change it. I can learn from it. I can do better, and then I can go forward and make sure that every day I'm putting my best foot forward and I'm doing whatever best I can do to get through my day. And then whatever happens, then you deal with that. I'll give you an example. I was supposed to come here. I know I've had a very busy week last week. I was like, I had so many deadlines and I was working until yesterday. And at night, I told myself, Shafoli, if you don't slow down now, you're not going to be able to perform well in the podcast tomorrow. So you need to slow down. You need to take rest. You need to be calm. And I started doing my journaling. I started, I had candles lit up in my room and I just started, calming down because I had a very, very, very stressful and very fast-paced week, and I had applications, I had lots of deadlines, so very stressful environment, so I had lots going on in my head. And then this morning as well, driving here, I made sure I was relaxed and I was not, internally everything was calm because I was only looking at what I'm going to do today. What's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen on Tuesday? What am I going to do with my deadline? I'm not thinking about it. I'm only thinking about my podcast that I'm going to record with Mandy today, and I want to make sure that I'm myself, because I can totally mess up today. I can totally be like not talking and be like, yeah, I can do, but now I know that I'm myself, I'm well relaxed, I'm in my full spirit, and I can answer all your questions. And the moment I'm out this door, I'm not going to think about this anymore.
Exactly. That's the right way to do it.
Whatever the outcome is, we'll know in a few weeks.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
All right. So let's talk about my last and final question before we lighten the mood and sort of get into a happy rapid fire round to get to know your personality more. What are some things that helped you during your hard seasons that could help someone that's watching us today that really worked? And looking back, you're kind of like, yeah, those routines and those rituals really worked for me.
So, again, I just knew one thing, that I have to work on myself. I didn't plan anything. Anything wasn't planned. But what I did do deliberately was cutting down on all the negative energies from my life. So negative people, negative environments, negative thoughts. Every time a negative thought would come to me, I would try. And I've had some deep, very, very dark weekends and days as well, where I would just sit in my room and cry my heart out and criticize myself and question my worth and all of that. I've done all of that. But slowly and gradually, I built self-love. I built acceptance. I built acceptance of the situation I was in, having faith in the universe, having faith in everything that was happening for me, surrendering. Surrendering has really, really helped me, telling myself constantly that it's all going to work out. It's all going to work out. Things are happening for a reason. So those things helped. And then I started workout. I started workout very early on after I separated. I've been working out for the last 18, 20 more years. I've had my own issues with weight gain and weight loss and stuff like that, but very, very consistent workouts. I started very quickly after I separated. I quit alcohol completely. I became sober. There was a period of a couple months in between after my separation where I had started drinking a little bit extra. Like I would earlier drink only socially, but then I got to a point where if I was stressed, I would just come home from work and have a wine or something. And I very quickly realized that no, this is headed in the wrong direction. I'm going to become an alcoholic. I need to stop this. And I stopped. And I've been sober for 3 years now. And stopped very recently, a few months ago. I stopped eating non-vegetarian food because I felt that that was just causing, it wasn't aligning with my internal thoughts. Like, I'm working on healing and I'm working on my positive thoughts. So for every time I ate non-vegetarian, it just didn't align with internally. Like I would be like, I'm eating non-vegetarian, but internally I'm trying to become like all clean, and I'm trying to
Kinda like
flush out
detoxing
everything.
yourself, yeah.
So that's not working out. So I'm not feeding myself. So I stopped eating non-vegetarian. I started attending meditation, or
you mentioned journaling. Can you touch on that? Did you just start writing things you're thankful for? I think a lot of people, when it comes to journaling, there's a lot of confusion, or they could use a little bit of advice. Talk to me about journaling.
So I just do 10 things that I'm grateful for every single day.
That's amazing.
Every morning I wake up, I write down 10 things. And you'll be amazed how many things are there to be thankful for. Sometimes it's just the hot water that's running in our house on a cold day. Remember when we just had that 50 centimeter snow? And just being warm inside the house was something I was grateful for.
Yeah.
And just having the abundance and the ability to do so many things, the freedom that we have in this country of speech, of doing whatever we want to do. The experiences that I've had, I'm so grateful for all the experiences I've had, because they wouldn't have made me the woman I am today. So every morning I write down just 10 things I'm grateful for, and at night before I sleep, I have a little stone next to my bed, and I'll always hold it in my hand, and I will think of the best thing that happened that day, and I'm going to thank the universe and God for it, and then I'll call it a night.
All right, now let's get into a rapid fire round. Nothing complicated, very quick, simple answers that come to your mind. The first one is, if Shafoli could sit with younger version of herself, what would you tell her to stop worrying about today?
Competing.
Okay. What belief about yourself had to break before your business could grow?
I'm good enough.
I love it. In moments of self-doubt, what do you remind yourself of, honestly?
I can do it. I can do it.
Yes, you can. What part of leadership did you have to learn the hard way?
Responding instead of reacting.
What did early Shafoli think success would feel, and what does it feel like now?
Oh, it feels so different. It was all about money and fame earlier, but now it's all about alignment.
Yep.
I'm aligned with what I'm doing.
That's wonderful. What habit or decision quietly changed everything?
Separating from my ex-husband.
Okay. What do you do now when things feel uncertain that you didn't know how to do before?
Just sit with myself.
I love that. And I agree. What kind of support did you resist at first, but now deeply value?
Having a mix of boys and girls in my group, in my team. I think it's so important to have that good mix.
Yeah, yeah. What's something you no longer chase, even though the world says you should?
That's a good one. There's so many things,
Yeah.
But I would say knowing everything.
Yeah.
You can know everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing
I agree
everything.
with that. Complete the sentence. I trust myself now because
I have proven that whatever I put my heart to, I can achieve it.
Thank you. I love those answers, and it helped us to get to know a little bit of yourself even more. That was all my questions. I have so many more. Maybe there could be a podcast number 2, but thank you so much for being here, sharing your journey, being raw, being honest, and being as confident as you are. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was honestly really, really fun chatting with you.
Yay, same here. All right, for those of you that are watching, always remember that no matter how big or hard the season is, things are always going to be okay. And if you have the mindset to grow, learn, and improve, it's always possible for you to turn things around for a better direction. If this video resonated with you, or you feel that it would help someone, please share, like, subscribe, and comment. Until next time.